I am Subhash Chandra Bose, leader of Indian National Army. I was born on 23rd January 1897 at Kata in Bengal Presidency. My mother's name is Prabhavati Dutt and my father's name is Janakinath Bose. I completed my school studies in India and my college studies at University of Cambridge. During World War II, I was under house arrest by British and escaped from India in 1940. I arrived to Germany in April 1941. I met Adolf Hitler only once in May 1942 and he offered to arrange for a submarine and I secretly landed on Japan. With the help of Japanese support, I revamped the Indian National Army. In 1944, the British Indian Army first halted and then devastatingly revamped the Japanese attack on India. Thus, the INA and myself played a significant role in the freedom struggle of India and World War II. With the defeat of Japan, my fortune ended. Thus, my dream to establish a foothold in India was diminished. I died from third-degree burns in a plane crash. I am praised for my patriotism and bravery till today. Thanking you. Jai Hind.
Swati Rajamani. I was a veteran of Indian National Army. I was born in Rangoon, Burma, present day of Myanmar. My father owned a gold mine and he was one of the richest Indians in Rangoon. My family was a staunch supporter of the Indian freedom movement and also contributed money to the movement. When I was 16-year-old, I was inspired by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose speech at Rangoon. I donated all of my jewelry to the INA. Realizing that I as a young girl might have donated the jewelry naively, Netaji visited my house to return it. However, I was adamant that he used it for the army. Impressed by my determination, he christened me as Saraswati. In 1942, I was recruited to the Rani of Jhansi regiment of the INA and I was part of the Army's military intelligence wing. I was well known for my work in the military intelligence wing of the Army. For almost 2 years, I and some of my female colleagues masqueraded as boys and gathered intelligence. While posing as a boy, I kept my name as Money. Once one of my colleagues was caught by the British troops. To rescue my colleague, I infiltrated the British camp in a dancer's costume. I drugged the British officers who were in charge and freed my colleague. While I was escaping with my colleague, I was shot on the leg by a British guard, but I still managed to avoid capture. My association with the army ended when Netaji disbanded the INA after World War II. After World War II, my family returned to India and gave away all their wealth, including the gold mine. As I was unable to meet both the ends with freedom fighters' pension, I appealed to the Tamil Nadu state government for help. Then the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Jayalalitha, provided assistance to me in the form of a gift of rupees 5 lakh and a rent-free housing board flat. I donated insignia to the INA Gallery of the Netaji Subhash Birthplace National Museum in Cuttack, Odisha.
Good morning to everybody. I am Abdul Hamid from class 5B. VVM Global Trichy. I am Ibrahim Habibullah, an Indian Army General. I was born in Lucknow, 2nd April 1910. I was educated in Clifton College and the Royal Military College. During World War II, I served as a major in Burma 1945. I served as a commandant National Defense Academy from 1953 to 1958. I retained Major General in 1965. The Habibullah Hall at the National Defence Academy is my memory. Thank you. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
I am Lakshmi Sagal and I was a revolution of the Indian independence movement, an officer of Indian National Army and a Minister of Women's Affairs in the Azad Hind government. I came from a political family and was interested in the national movement, but I was determined to finish my studies first. I completed studying medicine at the Madras Medical College in 1940. By this time, the Second World War had broken out and there was a move to recruit all the doctors into the British Army. I did not want to do that and so I went to Singapore where I have close relatives. I am properly known as Captain Lakshmi. I served the Subhash Chandra Bose Indian National Army. Thank you.
I, T. N. Angami, was born the son of V. N. Angami in Joshoma village near Kohima in a wealthy Angami family in 1913. I was schooled in Kohima, Johat and Shillong. I served as a storekeeper in the Indian Army during the Second World War. From 1946, I worked in the office of the Deputy Commissioner of the Naga Hills District for 5 years. I served as the first Speaker of Nagaland Legislative Assembly and the second Chief Minister of the Northeastern Indian State of India.
Good morning all. I am Vimal from class 5 and I am here to present a PPT on World War I. This is a world map illustrating the alliances and their empires before the outbreak of the war in 1914. The First World War. War on land. Battles took place in France, Luxembourg and Belgium, called the Western Front, and in Russia, called the Eastern Front. There was also fighting on land in Italy and Middle East and parts of Africa. What was trench warfare? Many battles were fought using trench warfare. Long ditches were dug in the ground. Soldiers lived in the trenches and sometimes climbed out to attack. A famous example of trench war was the Battle of Somme, which started in July 1916. Around 1 million soldiers were killed, wounded, or missing. The cause of the First World War. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. On 28 June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated while visiting Sarajevo in Bosnia. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, was shot and killed by a Serbian man who thought that Serbia should control Bosnia instead of Austria. Which new weapons were used in the war? Britain used tanks in battle for the first time on 15 September 1916. Aeroplanes were very recent inventions when World War I broke out. As aircraft technology developed, planes became very important to the war. Other weapons used: signaling posts, pistols, artillery field guns, machine guns, rifles and bayonets, official cameramen, battleships, hand grenades and shrapnel shells, gas masks and trench phones. What were air raids like in World War I? Zeppelins. German airships were called Zeppelins. Large bags filled with hydrogen gas enabled them to float. The crew controlled the engines from a compartment underneath. They dropped bombs on factories and military bases. William Leafy Robinson was the first British pilot to shoot down a Zeppelin in September 1916. His bullet set fire to the hydrogen and the airship crashed. William received a Victoria Cross, €3,500 prize money, and the rank of captain. Germany was less interested in using airships once Britain could destroy them. Great bombers, Gothas and Giants. The Gotha bomber could travel a long way and fly higher than British aircrafts. Gotha attacks were devastating. Later, Germany developed an even bigger, more dangerous bomber called the Giants. The success of German air raids was one of the reasons the Royal Air Force was formed in April 1918. Britain needed better aircraft and more trained pilots. How did life change? Until the air raids, British had worried about their loved ones fighting in the war. Now, children, women, and older people at home were also in danger. By the end of the war, almost 1,500 British citizens had been killed by the German air raids, and over 3,400 had been injured. How did World War I end? World War I ended on 11th November 1918, the day Germany signed an armistice, which caused the fighting to stop. People in Britain, France, and the countries that supported them celebrated. Why did Germany lose? At the start of 1918, Germany was in a strong position. Russia had already left the year before, which made Germany even stronger. A few events turned things around. Britain and France counterattacked strongly after Germany's Michael offensive in March 1918. The German Navy was on strike. In April 1917, the United States joined the war against Germany. Germany and her allies realized it was no longer possible to win the war. The leaders of the German army told the government to stop. Kaiser Wilhelm, Germany's ruler, stepped down on 9th November 1918. What was the Treaty of Versailles? The Treaty of Versailles. The leaders of the USA, Great Britain, and France met in Versailles to decide what should happen next. Germany, Austria, and Hungary were not invited. The agreement was called the Treaty of Versailles. Germany was shocked by it because they had to accept total blame for starting the war. They could not join the new League of Nations where countries work together for peace. Some places Germany used to own, like Alsace-Lorraine, were taken from them. They were banned from having an army of more than 100,000 men and from having any submarines or an air force. People in Germany were angry. The country had to pay 132 billion gold marks, their currency before the euro, and to repair the damages of war. They became poor because of this. What happened to soldiers after the war? How were soldiers after war? Many former soldiers still suffered from shell shock or were disabled. It was difficult to forget about the horrors of the war. Back in Britain, training centers were set up to support ex-servicemen and retrain them in new jobs such as cobblers, electricians, and jewelers. Their lives were never the same again. With this, we come to an end. I hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
Hi, I am Deepesh, studying 5th standard in BVM school at Trichy. Here I am to present about the causes of World War I. On July 28, 1914, began the outbreak of the First World War, called World War I, on the Great War for Civilization. 100 years might seem like a very long time ago, but it isn't really. Our great-great-grandparents were around then, and they would have lived through and maybe even taken part in this terrible conflict. There are 5 causes of World War I: mutual defense alliance, imperialism, militarism, nationalism, assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The war to end all wars. World War I saw a change in warfare from the hand-to-hand style of older wars to inclusion of weapons that use technology and remove the individual from close combat. There was 15 million dead and 20 million injured.
Hello friends, I am Shrika. Today I will be presenting on the role of India in World War I. To begin with, India was ruled by British government and therefore as a colony of British, India took part in World War I. India made a huge contribution to Britain's war effort. India sent 1.5 million Muslim, Sikh and Hindu men from regions such as the Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu and Bihar volunteered. India served in France, Belgium, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Gallipoli and Palestine. India fought against Germans in East Africa Western Front. Similarly, India provided 1.7 lakh animals to World War I, mostly horses. India provided clothing, sandbag and weapons. This slide shows the Indian bicycle troop participating in World War I in the Battle of Soma. Many Indians who fought on behalf of British government achieved greater milestones and were rewarded for their meritorious contribution like Mr. Khudat Khan. At the first battle of Yaipos, Khudat Khan became the first Indian to be awarded a Victoria Cross. Bhagat Singh Thind. He was one of the first Asian Indian soldier and first turban Sikh to serve in the United States Army during the First World War. In the same way, Major Thakur Dhalpat Singh was known as Haifa's hero. British government honored him with military cross in the battlefield. These are photos of war heroes. These are some of the Victoria Cross winners from India. These are some of the monuments in India dedicated for the soldiers who laid their lives in wars. Teen Murti and India Gate in New Delhi. Some of the pictorial showing in the monuments constructed in abroad. Chhatri Memorial, Brington, England. Statue of India Soldier in War Memorial, UK. War Memorial in Israel. War Memorial in France. Impact of World War I on India. The war created a new economic and political situation. It led a huge increase in defense expenditure, which was financed by war loans and increased customs. Duties were raised and income taxes on individual incomes. Through the war years, prices increased and leading to extreme hardship for common people. Forced recruitment of villagers in army led to widespread anger in the rural areas. 1921, million people perished as a result of famines and epidemic. The day on which the war ended is called the Remembrance Day. Armistice Day is on 11 November and is also known as Remembrance Day. It marks the day World War I ended. At 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month, a 2-minute silence is held to remember the people who have died in the war. It is also a national holiday in France and Belgium. The Indian Army photo in the World War I. Meera Bharat Mahan. Thank you.
Hello, good morning everyone. I am going to talk about World War. On 6 August 1945, the USA dropped an atomic bomb over the city of Hiroshima and 9 August dropped another bomb over Nagasaki. Within a few days, hundreds of thousands people died. Japan surrounded on 15 August.
what happened after the World War? After the World War, Germany lost a large portion of its territory to its neighbors. Germany was also split two over countries, the Federal Republic of Germany and the German Democratic Republic. All the country took a long time to recover the war. America became the world's leading economy by the 1950s. The colonies empire began to crumble as countries began to fight over their independence. With a weak economy and a diminished army, Britain began to grant independence to its colony, including India. Thank you.
My name is Lokeshwar. I am studying 5th B. BVM Global at Tiruchi. I am going to tell about World War II causes. Used by United Kingdom. Used from 1895 to present. Used as hunting rifle. Sold in United States. Used by many countries like India, Italy, Malaysia, Singapore, United States. It is considered as one of the Riot ammo nutrition inventor. I have an ambition to be an army man. Thank you.
I am studying 5th standard. Today I am going to speak about effects of World War II. All the countries took a long time to recover from the war. America became the world's leading economy by the 1950s. After World War II, India emerged as the world's fourth largest industrial power, and its increased political, economic and military influence paved the way for its independence from the British. The amount of working women increased 13 million to 19 million people. After the World War II, Britain got weaker. All the colonies under Britain got independent. War caused great destruction, terrible damage and even death. Let us be united, prevent ourselves from negative effects. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is K.S. Sarvesh from class 5B. I am very glad to invite you all for our project day. Today I am going to share why Indians involved during World War II and facts of Indian Army during World War II. For the first slide, I am going to share what prompted Indians to take part in World War II. The very first reason was daily bread and livelihood. The second reason was some people hoped that British gave freedom after World War II. And the third was India under the British rule, so they don't have any other options but to abide their instruction. For the next slide, I am going to share facts of Indian Army involved during World War II. In 1939, British Indian Army had 2,05,000 men. After 1945, the army grew to 2.5 million men. Indians fought with tremendous strength in the following front. First one is European traitors against Germany. Second one is North Africa against Germany and Italy. third one is South Asian region against the Japan and fighting the Japanese in Burma. British Indian Army was a conglomeration of tank, artillery and airborne forces. These forces were fight whether in land or whether in air or even in water. India supplied its financial resources, industrial resources and manpower to British Army during World War II. On 8 August 1942, the All India Congress Committee section in Bombay, Mahatma Gandhi was launched Quit India movement demanding an end to British rule in India. On the next day, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru and many other leaders of Indian National Congress were arrested by the British government.
Causes of World War II. Tribashni Selvam, 5A. What is a world war? A world war is a war engaged in by all or most of the principal nations of the world. The World War II was a disaster. More than 165 countries took part and many people left their lives. It began in 1939. The major causes of World War II were numerous. They include the impact of Treaty of Versailles following World War I, the worldwide economic depression, failure of appeasement, the rise of militarism in Germany and Japan, and the failure of League of Nations. When did the World War II start? World War II began on September 3, 1939, 2 days after Hitler's armies invaded Poland. It was a terrible moment for the world as more than 1,000 people lost their lives. Some countries were united and fighting against one country. The war would be fought between the Axis powers consisting of Germany, Italy and Japan. The World War II ended in 1945 after so many people's death. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Abhi, third of grade 5B and I'll be narrating about the world wars. I'll be summarizing causes, events and some interesting facts about the world wars. The world wars are one of the most tragic events in history as millions were killed and the economies of all countries fell. The First World War lasted for 4 years and the Second World War lasted for 6 years. The main cause of the World War I was imperialism. The European countries wanted to conquer other countries, so they formed treaties or alliances to help each other. So, Germany, Italy and Austria-Hungary formed an alliance and Britain, France and Russia formed another alliance too. Germany and Britain spent more and more money on their armies, leading to an arms race. The actual triggering event was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Serbian student on 28 June 1914. The World War I events. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on 28 June 1940. The Allies joined Russia, supported Serbia and Germany attacked France. Britain declared war on Germany and the countries supporting Germany were called the Central Powers. Countries supporting France and Britain were called Allies. The USA entered the war on 6 April 1917 after their ships were attacked by Germany. The end of World War I. The Central Powers lost after several terrible battles. Officially, the war ended with the signing of Treaty of Versailles on 28 June 1919. The Germany surrendered all the lands that they had conquered during the war. Interesting facts. Most of the First World War was fought in trenches. Trenches were deep holes dug underneath the ground for soldiers to stand and fight. Air Force and Navy were used extensively during the World Wars. The League of Nations was formed in 1919 to maintain world peace but failed to stop the Second World War. World War II. Causes. After the First World War, many European empires fell. and the Russian Empire fell after the Russian Civil War and was renamed as the Soviet Union. German Empire fell and a new democratic government was set up. Germans were angry because their lands were taken and Nazi party rose to power and Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Benito Mussolini, fascist, rose to power in Italy. Both were tyrants and crushed democracy. Events: Germany, Italy and Japan joined forces called as the Axis powers. Actual event triggering the war was Germany's invasion of Poland on 1st September 1939. A fierce battle began. Initially, the Axis powers were gaining till 1941 but made a fatal mistake by invading the Soviet Union on 22nd June 1941. The fatal mistake made by Japan was that they attacked the Pearl Harbor on Hawaii on 11 December 1941. That's when the USA entered the war. Events: Axis powers fell by 1945 on March. Hitler killed himself on 30th April 1945 and Germany surrendered on 23rd May 1945. An atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima on 6th August 1945. An atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki on 9th August 1945. Japan surrendered on 15th August 1945. Facts: Hitler believed Germans were superior and killed millions of Jews in concentration camps. This was known as the Holocaust. Airplane technology greatly advanced and the Luftwaffe was the most powerful German air force. United Nations Organization, also known as UNO, was established on 24th October 1945 to maintain world peace. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Hansika. I am studying in class 5B. I am going to talk about World War I and II summary. World War I began on July 28, 1914 after assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and lasted until 1918. Indian Army contributed a large number of soldiers to the British and helped them win the war. British promised self-rule to India at the end of the war. 74,187 of the Indian soldiers who served British in World War I lost their lives. Indian soldiers won a total of 11 Victoria Crosses in World War I. As high as 100 million British pounds was gifted by India to Britain to fund their war and home rule in return. On June 28, 1919, World War I ended with the signing of Treaty of Versailles. World War II fought from 1 September 1939 to 2 September 1945. Reason for World War II or World War I continuation or Japan seized Manchuria from China in 1931. India stayed in the shadow of British regiment. One side, Indians were fighting for freedom. Other side, Indian Army fought for British in World War II. Indian fought with magnificent strength in several fronts. India supplied its financial resources, industrial resources and manpower to British Army. Subhash Chandra Bose is a known Indian in World War II. Thank you.
Hi, I am Lakshana of grade 5. I am here to narrate our class projected topic. Our topic is World War I and II summary, causes, facts, history in the point of our Indian faces. A world war is a war engaged in by all or most of the principal nations. World War I causes. World War I, also known as the Great War, began in 1914 after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. His murder catapulted into a war across Europe that lasted until 1918. On July 28, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Come,
let's see more information about this topic. Facts. Indians were threatened to participate in both the world wars. In World War I, the Indian Army fought against the German Empire in the Western Front. Here are my friends waiting to share more information about this topic. History. Approximately 1.3 million Indian soldiers served on World War I and more than 74,000 of them lost their lives. Summary. World War I, also known as the Great War, began in 1914 and ended in 1918. World War II is a longer war than World War I and it was between 1939 to 1945. Here are my friends to give some points related to this topic. World War II causes. There are many different causes for World War II. The Treaty of Versailles was a complete and almost a total failure due to the distaste of many of the Allied powers. Do you want to know more about this topic? Come, let's know about it by my friends. Facts. In late August 1939, Hitler and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin signed the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact, which incited a frenzy of worry in London and Paris. Come, we'll hear more about this topic. History. World War II proved to be the deadliest international conflict in history, taking the lives of 60 to 80 million people, including 6 million Jews who died at the hands of Nazis during the Holocaust. Here are my friends to tell about this topic in detail. Thank you for listening patiently to our class projected topic. Thank you.